You're here. My name is Pastor Bob. I'm the pastor of the church here. Been here 24 years. We are Greshamites. And we are happy to host Ed Diehl this evening. So Jim Kite, Mayor Jim Kite's going to introduce him. Give him a big hand. Come on.
Well, it works for the deer. I want to see if it worked for you. Well, I got your attention. I'm Jim Kite. I'm the vice chair of the Multnomah County Republican Party. Also retired as the mayor of Troutdale, Oregon. One of my favorite cities. I'm still living there. So we got deer now. 35 years we lived there, no deer. Now it's a deer farm. That's because I feed them every morning at 6:30. They're not dumb. They get millet, they get corn, they get deer food from Coastal. Yeah, they actually make deer food. Okay, moving on. We don't want to take a lot of time doing this. The host, of course, is City Park Church. And in particular, we have Bob and Sybil Trumby, is it? Yeah, right there. Stand up, stand up, stand up. So thank you for allowing us to use your church. By the way, as you probably know, this was a Masonic lodge at one time. So I think they've done a great job of repurposing this building. Thank you, Jesus. Cindy Sawyer, are you here? Cindy Sawyer. Going once, going twice. She is the one, Cindy Sawyer, is the one who donated the funds to have this meeting here tonight. By the way, thank you, Cindy. By the way, as just a show of hands, how many have already voted? Whoa, I like that. And I'm going to raise my hand. And guess who I voted for governor? So we had a meet and greet at Bumper's restaurant. And I thought it was early. Turns out I was late. Or everybody else was early, and I was on time. Anyway, the short of it is there was one seat left, and guess who it was next to? Yeah, you guessed it. By the way, Ed Diehl has a talent that no other governor in the state of Oregon has or will have probably in the future. And you have to guess what that talent is. And if you guess, you get a Milky Way Mini. And you know what that talent is? I said to Ed, do you mind if I'm your wingman? Big hint. Wingman? Bing! Who said pilot first? Ho! So he gets to fly all over Oregon in his own plane. You have, what kind of a plane, Ed? A Cirrus? That sounds like something on my phone. Anyway, when I talked to Ed, first of all that got my attention is he's a businessman. So he's got that mindset. He's going to run the state government like a business, which, boy, does it ever need it. Next of all, he has what's called moral judgment. He's a Christian. Which means he has a moral value system, right? Okay. I'm going to stop talking because I want you to give him the big one about the gas, And by the way, I work for car dealers, and I drive all over the state of Oregon, Northern Cal, and Southern Washington delivering cars and trucks. And I see your sign everywhere, especially out in the rural areas, everywhere. The other day I went down to Eugene and going, Ed Diehl, Ed Diehl, Ed Diehl. And by the way, your TV ads are fabulous. Absolutely spot on. Much better than your competitors. I particularly like the overlay. Say again? and positioned perfectly. You're the last one, either the first or last, can't remember, but it's perfectly positioned. So they'll run through the other political ads, and then it's ed, no tax ed. So having said that, no tax ed, come on up.
Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
That was the most entertaining intro I've had so far.
And it was free.
Well, it's great to be here. Thank you, Pastor Bob, and is it Sybil? Sibylle. That's the first Sibylle I've ever met. Okay. German, all right. I go back to Germany too, way back, pre-Revolutionary War. Yeah. But yeah, it's great to be here. One day left. Good grief. Yeah. Then we're on to round 2. It's going to get really interesting then, right? Yeah. Who wants to take back Oregon here? Yes. Yeah. I want to introduce my wife, Jamie. Jamie is my chief of staff, in addition to being the love of my life. And we also worked in our business together. We flipped our life upside down to do this crazy thing, but it's worth it. Our state is worth it, and that's why we're fighting. I want a state I can be proud of and a state for my kids and grandkids. And I know a lot of you agree with that. And I know most of you voted already, but there are a few of you that didn't vote, so I know who I'm talking to. I think those two right there. You haven't voted yet? Okay, I got some work to do. So, but hey, just a little bit about my background and experience, and I'll talk just at a high level about policy, but then I want to leave time for questions. A lot of time for questions. And I don't filter my questions. We have another mic here. We'll just find somebody to pass the mic around and ask. So I represent House District 17, which is East Salem through the Santiam Canyon, if you're familiar with that Highway 22 corridor, beautiful part of the state. And I've had the honor of representing that since 2023. So I'm pretty new in the legislature. I'm in my 4th year. I know I've been in there long enough to see what's broken, but it hasn't broken me yet. That's how I look at it. I also I jumped at the opportunity to lead the referendum effort on the transportation tax and fee package. My job on that with Senator Bruce Starr and Jason Williams was to lead the volunteer effort to gather those signatures. We gathered, with your help, a lot of folks helped, 250,000 signatures in 38 days. It is on the ballot. It is on the ballot in November. I'm sorry. It was supposed to be on the ballot in November. It's on the ballot right now. By all accounts, it's going to go down in flames. Everything we're hearing, it's going to go down in flames, and which it should. We want a government that's accountable for every dollar they're already getting, and unfortunately, we don't have that in Oregon. Now I'm going to go way back. My wife grew up in Scio, if you know where Scio is, SC10. Yeah, you know where Scio is. You lived there? Oh, okay. Well, maybe you knew Jamie. Okay, talk later. But I did not grow up in Montana, I did not grow up in Oregon. I grew up in Montana. Western Montana. You too? All right. Okay, I grew up in Plains. You know where Plains is? Town of about 1,000 people, yeah. But I grew up on a cattle ranch. My dad was a logger and a truck driver. One grandpa was a sawmiller, and the other grandpa was the forest ranger in the same district. So that formed my upbringing. I got a scholarship to Stanford University. I studied mechanical engineering. I have a bachelor's and master's in mechanical engineering. And but the coolest thing about Stanford, that's where I met my wife. And we decided when we graduated, we were going to move to Oregon. And we were going to get married and have kids and build a business. In that order. We did it in that order. It's always a good idea. And we have 2 kids and 3 great grandkids now. And yes, proud grandpa. And we started a business that did factory automation and control systems. So if you know what that is, We put the computer systems and the software on the machines that make stuff. So everything from putting rivets in Boeing 747 wings to laying up the composite fiber on the Dreamliner wings. We actually sent a crew to Japan. Those wings are actually built in Japan. We welded the nose cone on the Falcon SpaceX rocket. Lots of French fries for Lamb Weston and ConAgra Foods. If you're eating a McDonald's French fry, it could have been made by our controls. And then lots of sawmill work. I worked in sawmills all over the world, actually, and a lot of them in Oregon. And a lot of my customers are gone now, and that's one of the reasons I'm running. But that background in business and engineering, and frankly, I wish we had more business people in the legislature, and engineers, by the way. But that background in business and engineering really shapes how I've approached my job in the legislature and how I will approach my job as governor as well. You know, Governor Kotek has never worked in the private industry a day in her life. Not one day in her life. And, well, maybe way, way back. But she spent her career in nonprofits and then her career in the legislature. That is not a good training ground to be an executive. And we're seeing that on full display. Failure after failure after failure with policies. We'll get into that. My background, I bootstrapped my business with 2 business partners. When I say bootstrapped, I didn't have any private equity backing. I sold a car and I leveraged my credit cards. I left a good paying job and we had 2 little kids at home. And basically put everything I owned on the line to build this thing. But we were successful with it. We built it up to 100 employees based in Albany. Company's called Concept Systems. It's still there. Based in Albany, and then we have an office in Seattle, and we had one in Charlotte, North Carolina. And I sold my interest in that about 8 years ago to my business partners. And I've done a real lousy job of retiring, as you can tell. But I got involved in doing some just volunteer boards, working in my community. I'm a member of Knights of Columbus, if you know what that is. I'm a Catholic. I've been Catholic 14 years. I was agnostic, atheist most of my life. I found Jesus in my 40s. It's changed my life. Yes. But, you know, the way I see it is pretty simple. We live in the most beautiful state in the country. We do. I love it here. I love this state. And I've traveled, I've been all over the state before, working. But I traveled it now just talking to folks all over the place. And I'm just reminded how gorgeous this state is and how diverse it is. And how, you know, and I'm reminded one-party governance and a top-down philosophy in Oregon just does not work. A Portland-centric philosophy of governance does not work in Burns or Brookings or Grants Pass. And that's, or Scioto or Gresham. Yes. So I'm much more of a smaller government, limited government, local control kind of guy, and that's what you're going to see as governor. But we live in the most beautiful state in the country. But what good is that if you can't afford to live here? What good is that if your kids can't get a good education, or if your streets aren't safe, or if businesses and jobs are fleeing? So my vision for Oregon is to not only be the most beautiful state in the country, but the greatest state to live and to work and to raise your family and retire in a place where your kids and grandkids don't have to leave to find a better job. And everywhere I go, I'm talking to parents whose kids are leaving because they can't afford to live here anymore or they found better opportunity. I'm also meeting people all over. If things don't change, I am leaving. I'm getting out of this state. And that's simply unacceptable. And it does not have to be that way. My 3 pillars, and then I'll open it up to questions. My 3 pillars are, and I start with this one, a government that is accountable and government agencies that are accountable, an affordable way of life, and a thriving economy. And believe me, a thriving economy fixes a lot of ills for a lot of people. When I say agency accountability and government accountability, we have 4 decades of one-party governance. It'll be 4 decades to the inauguration day that Vic left office. I got this pin here from a guy that went to, I met him at a forum in the Dalles. And he was decked out in that Diehl gear, and he had this pin in his hat. And he said, I want to give this to you. I think he's had it for 40 years. It's an original Vicatia pin. I know it's an original because there's no guard on the pin. The pin is actually longer than the round thing, and so you get stabbed if you're not very careful with it. So I think it's a 40-year original. But Vicatia was a business guy too. But it has been 40 years since we've had a Republican governor. And that's long enough. That is long enough. Too long, too long. But in that process, we have state agencies that are no longer accountable to the people they're supposed to serve. Not only that, we have a governor and a legislature that are no longer accountable. And that's one of the reasons I'm running, is because I see bill after bill that I know is popular with the people of Oregon that don't get heard, much less voted on. And I see other legislation that I know is unpopular with the people of Oregon, but yet it gets a hearing and it gets voted on and it heads out the door. And you got to ask, how can that be? It's because a lot of us are not paying attention. You guys are, you're here. But I know a lot of Oregonians have not been paying attention because I was one of them for years. I'm building a business, I'm taking care of my kids, making a safe home, but I'm not paying attention to local politics and who's making the decisions. And while I have not been paying attention, people who don't agree with my values have taken over the government and are making decisions that in many cases I find appalling. And nobody's coming to save us but ourselves, and that's why I jumped into this thing. So we have agencies, we have doubled our spending in the last 10 years. Doubled state spending. And you can't explain that with population growth. You can't explain it with inflation. You can't even get to half of it. I'm looking to get our agencies back under control and accountable to the people they serve. I'm calling for 100% detailed independent performance audits by fund and subfund to understand exactly where all the money's going and to root out the fraud and the waste. When I get past the primary tomorrow, I will be identifying new leadership in virtually every one of these agencies. I want leaders like I would hire in my business. Leaders that can dive into these agencies, really understand how they work and function, but most importantly, make sure they are aligned with the core mission that the Oregonians expect of their state agencies. Does anyone here believe that the Department of Education is aligned with its core mission? Where we're spending more money than we ever have, and we're getting bottom-ranked results. And you know how many teachers I've talked to? There may be some teachers here. You know how many teachers I've talked to that are so frustrated with their ability to just teach kids in their own class. They're having trouble disciplining their classrooms. They're also being forced some agenda by the state that doesn't align with our values and is also not aligned with the core things we should be teaching. I'm calling for accountability, discipline, and excellence in our schools again. By accountability, I'm not only talking about classrooms and accountability for results in our classrooms. I'm talking about accountability for students and accountability for parents. Because I've talked to too many teachers who are so frustrated with their own ability to control their own classrooms. I have brought legislation to make it a little easier for teachers to just discipline, basic discipline in their classrooms. And I know it's a number one issue. The teachers union says it's a number one issue. They told me it was a number one issue, but they refused to support my legislation because it didn't fit their agenda. You have a teachers union who's not even representing the best interests of their own members. Huh? No. Excellence, I expect, it's okay to set a high bar for performance and to test to high standards. Mostly we just need to get back to reading, writing, and arithmetic, the basic fundamentals of an education, teaching about capitalism, teaching our values, our Western values, teaching these kids about our Constitution, not only the U.S. Constitution, but the state Constitution. Just back to the basics of a good education. The nonsense at the top, the identity politics, that BS, goes away when I'm governor. DEI goes away when I'm governor. And the identity curriculum also goes away with it. We will get back to basics. And you know what? Mississippi figured this out. It's not that complicated, folks. We can have great performing public schools. I went to public school. My wife went to public school. Our kids went to public school. I want desperately to have public schools that we're proud of. That said, I support school choice. I brought legislation to introduce education savings accounts. I was chief petitioner on a petition to introduce school choice to Oregon. That's an important value as well, and so I'll be defending that opportunity as well. That's just one example of many agencies that are misaligned with the core mission, with their own core mission. ODOT, I've already hammered on ODOT a lot as I've traveled around the state. ODOT's another example. People don't want to pay more in taxes until they know that their government is making best use of the money they're already getting. And I've talked to people in Portland, I've talked to people in all over the state who are saying, I'm paying a ton in taxes and I'm not getting anything for it. I was talking to a business here in Portland. He said, I came from New York. I think he had a business in New York. He sold it and he bought a business here in Portland. I paid a lot in taxes in New York. I got something for it. I moved to Portland. I'm paying a lot in taxes and I'm not getting anything for it. And unless it changes, I'm picking up my business and I'm taking it to Arizona. And he wasn't kidding. But it's not just happening in Portland. I was talking to a business down in White City and saying the same thing. He was complaining about his ability to expand his own business. And when I say expanding business, it's adding more jobs. These are good paying jobs. In his case, they're skilled trade jobs. He said, I'm hitting stop after stop with our government, with the regulations, with the permitting, with the system development charges. So while he's trying to navigate this, he's trying to get an audience with Governor Kotek. Governor Kotek says, is not giving him the time of day. But he starts hearing from businesses in Texas. And those businesses are saying, hey, you should come to Texas. You'll be able to hire skilled trade students coming out of high school. You can hire them. We've got a great business climate. The way of life is more affordable. And the next thing is the owner of this company, in this case is Pavati Boats, is talking to the governor of Texas, Greg Abbott. He can't get the time of day from Governor Kotek, but he's talking to the governor of Texas. And this isn't a company with thousands of employees. I think they have about 50 employees. But they make a great product with great potential. They should be here in Oregon. This is an Oregon homegrown company, but they're looking at moving part of their operation to Texas. That is shameful. I can guarantee you that as your next governor, an Oregon business person's first conversation with the governor won't be with the governor of Texas. It's going to be with the governor of Oregon. And I'm looking at the business climate, and we already know what the problems are in Oregon with business. But this gets with an affordable way of life. I'm calling for tax cuts. Governor Kotek is calling for more tax increases over and over and over again. It's nonstop. I'm calling for tax cuts. Number one, elimination of the hidden sales tax, which is the corporate activities tax, which is a tax on every business. Whether you make money or not, you're paying this tax. And I've talked to some businesses with a really slim margin, in which and sometimes the tax is their margin. It's outrageous. And the thing is, that tax is passed on to consumers, and it accumulates, actually. Every sales transaction, that tax is added on. Calling for elimination of that. Calling for the elimination of the death tax, if you know what that is. In fact, there's a petition downstairs for that. And I'm calling to freeze property taxes for senior citizens. That is just a start. To reduce the tax burden, put more money, more of your own money back in your pocket. And that's the start. And the third thing I've already hit on to some extent is a thriving economy. I want great paying jobs for my kids and my grandkids. And that means private sector jobs. When I look at what's going on in Portland right now, we're losing businesses, we're shedding jobs. How many jobs has Portland shed just in the last several years. It's tens of thousands of private sector jobs. This actually gives me a little bit of hope, because Portland is now complaining about the same things that a lot of the rest of the state has been complaining about for a long time. It unites us as Oregonians, and it's uniting us across party lines. That is opportunity for us. That is opportunity for a Republican governor, the first one in 40 years. And I think I'm in a unique position. I know I'm in a unique position to deliver that. So at a high level, that's where I'm at. There's a lot of specific policy issues that I'm sure you guys have questions on. I'd love to open it up to that. And if you don't hit on things that I think are important, I'll bring them up. But I definitely want to open it up for some questions. Would you mind, Pastor Bob, taking the mic around?
Thank you for being here tonight. I have two questions. I wonder what your position is on sanctuary state status and if you're planning to address that at all. And number two, I'm very curious to know how you're going to fight the teachers union.
Yeah. So first off, on the sanctuary status, it is a requirement that our local law enforcement communicate and cooperate with the federal government when it comes to immigration to get the criminals out of our state. We are harboring some bad operators in this state. We know we are. And when I talk to law enforcement, and by the way, our son is in law enforcement, Marion County Sheriff's Detective. When I talk to law enforcement, they point me back to a bill that went through. It was actually an executive order by Kate Brown in 2017. It became a bill in 2021 called the Sanctuary Promise Act. And what it did is it drew a hard line where law enforcement cannot communicate with the federal government. And it is so absurd that you can have somebody in the country or in the state unlawfully commit a heinous act, serve time in prison, and then they're released into the community. Instead of the common sense thing would be law enforcement calls, hey, I have this guy, he's being released, deport him. Our son was telling us another example where you can come into the state illegally, commit a murder, flee back to Mexico. We cannot do anything to extradite that person and bring them back to justice. That is ridiculous. That law needs to go. That law needs to go, and that's my focus. That is my focus, the 2021 Sanctuary Promise Act. Either eliminating it or radically reforming it so we can cooperate and communicate. And I'll do everything in my power, if I can, via executive order to make that happen and make sure law enforcement can talk to the feds on that. Yeah. Well, if what you mean by sanctuary, what do you mean specifically by sanctuary?
There are states that are not sanctuary. Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
There are states that are not sanctuary, and there are states that say they are sanctuary.
But what does that mean?
That means that, I think, that means that illegal aliens know that which states are sanctuary, and that's where they congregate.
So let me elaborate on this too. There's the 2021 Sanctuary Promise Act provides cover for bad actors. I mean, we have human traffickers, gang members in this state. And it's not just from South America. They're from China as well. The other thing that we do that I will reverse is we spend, I don't know if you guys realize this, but we spend $1.2 billion every budget cycle on free health insurance, whether you're a U.S. citizen or not. That's both illegal and legal immigrants. And that is state tax dollars, because federal Medicaid dollars cannot be used unless you're a U.S. citizen. So that is something also I want to get rid of. And the way I look at it is pretty simple. We have, what's Medicaid for? The elderly, children, people with disabilities. And I'm vice chair of the healthcare committee, by the way, in the House. That's the population that we're intending to serve with Medicaid. They're getting shortchanged while we're spending $1.2 billion on people that are not even supposed to be in the country. That is wrong. It is just wrong. And that creates an environment where people are attracted to come in here. I would say I'm not going to be, my job for, as governor is public safety. So I will not be, I'm not going to be having law enforcement go out and enforce immigration, if that's what you're asking. I will cooperate with the federal government. It's their job to do immigration. And I expect everybody to either be a citizen or on a pathway to become a citizen. That's not a high bar. Yeah. And the teachers union. Oh man, I'm not an anti-union person. I got to start with that. My dad was a union member. My middle brother was a union member. My son is a union member. Okay, but when I get in that building, it's unbelievable the power that the SEIU has and the teachers union. Those two in particular, I'd add the nurses probably, but there is not a single bill that goes through that the SEIU opposes. And if the SEIU wants the bill, come hell or high water, they will find a way to make it happen. Now, we fought back. I'll give you an example. We fought a bill that would have set up a statewide labor standards board for home health care workers. Well, I worked with all these small businesses that provide home health care who did not want this standards board, who did not want to be part of the union. I worked with them to fight that bill back. It was a flagship bill for the SEIU. And I ended up filing an ethics complaint against the SEIU because they misrepresented their own membership. They sent us all postcards saying, had names of all these members that supported this bill. Well, I found out that some of those postcards I got came from people who did not support the bill. So anyway, I'm not the SEIU's favorite candidate, I'll put it that way. But with the SEIU and the teachers union, here's what I see going on. Well, on the teachers union is losing funds right now. Teachers are not happy with their own leadership, and they're not paying their dues, and they're having funding problems. I've talked to members in the SEIU as well. They're not happy with their own leadership. Their leadership is very far left, but their membership is not. Kind of like our governor. She does not represent mainstream interests of Oregonians. But the teachers union leadership and the SEIU leadership are not representing mainstream interests. That's how I'm going to take them on, by finding that divide and faction within their own ranks and giving some of them a voice that some of them have been afraid to speak up. I know the teachers. I've talked to teachers who, they're in tears. They've got scratches up and down their arms because they can no longer protect themselves in the classroom. It's absurd. If you haven't gone to like a second grade classroom or some of these other classes, you need to, because this is not the class, the school that I grew up in. It doesn't resemble that at all. So they're looking for help, and their union is not doing it. Their union is not doing it. And when we have kids struggling and struggling with, bottom of the barrel outcomes, which should be a national embarrassment. The teachers union is talking about, hey, we need to be educating kids about Palestine. Palestine? How about teach them to read first? Let's focus on that. So anyway, I'm going to push back. This will be the biggest battle I have to reverse decades of mismanagement and government overreach. That's the biggest battle I'm going to have. But I'm ready to take it head on. You guys will have to have my back though, okay? And while I'm thinking about that with these agencies, I'm for priority-based budgeting. So what that means is simple. If you're going to bring a program to me and you're going to want it funded, number one, it's going to have outcomes. You're going to measure outcomes. Number two, it's going to have a sunset. And if we're not achieving those outcomes by that sunset, it goes away. We're spending hundreds of millions of dollars on a homeless problem. We don't even know how many people we're helping. They don't know where that money's going. But I agree, it is a homeless industrial complex. That will come to an end. We're going to be accountable for your tax dollars. and deliver results.
How you doing, Ed?
Good, how are you?
I'm doing well,
All
thank
right.
you. So, just want to say that some of the things you touched on has touched my family. So, my wife used to work for Portland Public Schools. She got attacked, herniated a disc in her neck. She's now on SSD, making a quarter of what she could. Crime in Oregon, crime in Portland. I live in Portland. I've had my cars broke into on my street because we had a homeless camp / GTA Grand Theft Auto camp where they were stripping cars. We had a guy shot down there just around the block from my house. 14 hours later, the police finally showed up to do something about it. What can you do as governor to remove those Second Amendment laws that restrict me from protecting my family inside my home?
Good question. So I'm a strong Second Amendment advocate, number one. And I know the Second Amendment isn't there to protect my right to hunt. It's to protect us from an unruly government, right? I'm endorsed by Tony Aiello, who is the chief attorney on the fighting Measure 114. I'm endorsed by Derek LeBlanc, and I'm also endorsed by Oregon Firearm Federation. I think I'm the only candidate in this race that has that kind of endorsement from Oregon-based gun rights advocates. I will not sign an unconstitutional gun bill that violates our Second Amendment rights. I will veto it, number one. I joined all three of them, those groups, to fight against the Measure 114 fix and this last session. And what ultimately ended up with that bill is we ended up, it was a huge win, frankly. We ended up delaying the inaction date, the date it goes into effect. And what that gave is Tony and his team of attorneys the opportunity to continue that fight in court, and hopefully the courts will side with us. Another thought on that is I think if voters had the opportunity to vote on Measure 114 again today, do people know what I'm talking about with Measure 114? Yeah. I think it would go down. There is a ballot measure out there right now gathering signatures. I don't think they're going to get enough signatures to get it on the ballot, but I would love to get that back on the ballot. Just a pure repeal Measure 114. Get it back to voters and vote that thing down. So, thanks.
Ed, I have a pocket.
Are you allowed to ask a question?
Yes, I'm ordained to do that. So, a pocketbook issue. Would you consider putting a moratorium on the gas tax?
Yeah. I just did a press release a few days ago on that.
I knew that.
So I called on Governor Kotek to put a moratorium not only on the gas tax, which is 40 cents a gallon, but on the clean fuels mandates, which are adding another 26 cents a gallon to our fuel. I don't know if you know that, but Oregon has some very special requirements for the fuel that we get, which are adding, I don't think that they're not helping the climate at all, but they're costing you a fortune. That's 26 cents a gallon. So all told, I've asked Governor Kotek, until prices come back down and stabilize, to give folks a reprieve of 66 cents a gallon. I haven't heard back from her. And I think, yeah.
Hearing a lot of buzz on Facebook about the animal abuse thing that would take
I'm not a
away-
chief petitioner on that
I
one, by the way.
didn't think
Okay, just want to
so.
make sure.
But does everybody know what that one is? Go ahead and explain
Sure,
that.
sure. It's IP 28. And if you listen to the people who are out gathering signatures for it, do you want to prevent animal cruelty? Yes, of course. Well, sign here. It's the Peace Act. But what it does, if you read it, and you don't even have to read the fine print, just read what it's going to say in the ballot. It says a yes vote bans hunting, fishing, I think animal husbandry, pesticide use, I mean, if a strict reading of this bill, you can't even kill a mouse unless it's in self-defense. It is absurd. It is absurd. It's being funded by some guy out of state. I think it was written by some guy out of state. And it's laughable, except this is Oregon. And I hope people read it, get past prevent animal cruelty. So I don't know if they're going to have enough signatures to get it on the ballot. But I tell you what, if you want every hunter and fisherman in the state to come out and vote, put that crazy thing on the ballot. But I'm opposed to it. Yeah, did you figure that out? Yeah. Thanks for bringing that up. Yep.
Well, thank you for what you're doing
Yes.
for senior citizens, being how I entered senior citizenhood a year ago. I'll be 66 next week. My main thing is I'm a traveler. I've been all over the state, and I'm born and raised here, okay? And we're spending a huge amount of money in vehicle fees and gasoline, basically fuel taxes, gas and diesel. And look at our highways. They are the most out-of-date highways I've ever seen. I mean, I'm old enough to remember watching them build 205. And that thing is already well out of date. I-5 is a total joke, especially in the South Valley. That 4-lane should have been replaced many years ago. But my thing is, how do you stand on making ODOT accountable for doing what it's supposed to do? It's supposed to be building new roads as needed and maintaining the existing roads and upgrading them as needed, and maintaining a state police force. The state police is only 300 officers. Should be 1,300. And then, of course, my other thing is the speed limit. The outdated former federal speed limit we're still stuck with. Anyway, thanks for your work with seniors.
Yeah, you bet. So ODOT, to me, ODOT is an agency that's not aligned with its core mission anymore. It is not accountable for the dollars it's spending. That's why I've pushed this referendum so hard. And I think most every Oregonian agrees with me on that. So number one, I want an ODOT that's accountable for the money it's getting. And then, if needed, we can talk about more revenue to ODOT. But when I look at an agency, if you look at their strategic plan today, what's the number one goal on their strategic plan? Is it road safety and maintenance? Does anybody want to take a guess? No, it's not. Yes, it's equity. Equity is their number one goal. And when I look at these projects, which I'm not a road engineer. I'm an engineer, but I'm not a road engineer. But I talk to them. You have a Rose Quarter project that should be $500 million. Well, now it's a $2 billion project with this majestic cap over it, and buildings and parks, but it doesn't add a third lane. I just drove through that thing. It needs a third lane. If I'm going to spend money on it, do that. Or an I-5 bridge project that's probably going to be up to $17 billion. But that bridge could be built, again, if your goal is to get traffic safely from point A to point B, that bridge could be built for $4 billion. It does not need to be a $17 billion bridge that, frankly, I don't think will ever happen because we don't have the money for it now. They're talking about doing it in phases. So I want to see an agency that is accountable for the money that they already have, number one, and I'll be delivering that. On your other questions, the speed limit, I haven't even thought about raising the speed limit. I came from Montana. You know what the speed limit was when I was a kid? Reasonable and prudent. Reasonable and prudent. And I had an uncle, and he just drove around with $5 bills. And if he ever got stopped, he handed a $5 bill to the cop, and then that cop would tell him, hey, the next guy is about 20 miles down the road. I would be open to raising the speed limit. I'm assuming you didn't want to lower it. Want to raise it? I'd consider that. I haven't taken a position on that yet. And what was your other question? Oh, yeah. Okay. But you want more police. Yeah. I'm way more interested. Yeah. Yeah. I'm way more interested in increasing our local police force at the city level and county level. And crime came up. I'm much more of a broken windows kind of guy. We need to stop crime when it happens. Because if you don't, guess what? The crimes get bigger and bigger. Portland is looking at doing a fund to help businesses recover. Well, why don't you stop them from being broken into in the first place? That's the right answer. That does take more law enforcement. And I know I think Portlanders are actually willing to spend more money on law enforcement based on some polls I saw recently. Thank you. Yeah.
So I think most people here agree that we've got a lot of bureaucracy in Oregon, but diving into the weeds a little bit, it seems like it's administration heavy. And I think that's where most of the costs are. And if you simply say, let's, cut ODOC by 15%, it's going to be the last in, first out. And it's going to cause more problems. So how do you deal with the bloated or the upper end of the bureaucracy?
Well, when you start, I'm not going to just do an across-the-board cut. These are going to be strategic. And some agencies are going to get hit more than others. And I want new leadership in there to look at this. And yes, administrative overhead is huge. In ODOT, Department of Education, I want that money to be going into the classrooms, not into administrative overhead. So what I can say is it's going to be strategic. And just talk to people who work at ODOT. Talk to people who work with DHS. They'll tell you where the problems are. But you got to get past the leadership, who's really, I'd say, really, for the most part, not interested in doing a deep dive into these agencies.
Hi. My husband is a native Oregonian, and he's a lifelong fisherman and hunter. And the governor before Brown, it was a gentleman.
Kitzhaber.
A man, yes. And he apparently agreed not to have gill nets in the Columbia. And my husband is very upset about the gill, and he asked me to ask you about the gill nets.
That's a good question, and I need to research that more. Yeah, so I don't have an answer for you on that one. I can tell you that you're just making me think of, with the Department of Fish and Wildlife, we need more hunters and fishermen on that commission to be making decisions. I've talked to people all over the state. They're so disgruntled, and I see actually wildlife population in decline. And there's a number of reasons for that, and part of it, in my opinion, is being mismanaged. And also the Endangered Species Act, I think, needs to be modernized, put it that way. I've got Detroit Lake in my district, and they're looking at doing a deep drawdown on that lake to help the Chinook salmon. And hopefully it helps them. But in the process, they're going to hinder the kokanee salmon habitat. And it's a great fishery for kokanee salmon. Sportsmen love going up that river for kokanee, but it's going to hinder that. Plus, it's going to release this superfine sediment that's going to go down into the city of Staten water treatment and Salem. And the Army Corps hasn't given us a good answer of how they're going to deal with that. They spent more time talking about a turtle in the environmental impact statement than they did about how they're going to maintain clean water. And part of the problem is the Endangered Species Act and how it's being interpreted. And I know some changes are coming on that front from the federal level, and I welcome that. Yep.
I'm concerned about the roads in Portland, namely Division, Halsey, and the way that they put concrete in the middle of the roads, and the way that they're obviously trying to slow traffic down.
They're trying to make you ride a bus.
Exactly.
They're discouraging you.
You did it, yeah.
It's intentional.
And businesses are suffering because people have to drive all the way around for a long ways just to get turned around. And they say you can make a U-turn, but there's not enough space for a truck to make a U-turn there. And I see, I was driving along, and this really nice Mercedes rammed its tire right into one of these concrete blocks because people weren't expecting it to be there. People don't know where all the concrete's being poured.
Wow. Well, all I can say is I disagree with that. And when you have, first off, quit electing socialists into the Portland City Council. Would you help me out with that? I was the first Republican to talk to the Portland Metro Chamber in, was it 2 decades? It's been a long time. I couldn't believe that they didn't have a Republican come talk to them. But that was my first word of advice, is quit electing socialists. Believe me, they're working on it. But yeah, that's absurd. And you have a lot of your Portland City Council, didn't they go to, was it Vienna? Did they go to Vienna to get a tour, to tour a city that was built before cars, and thinking they're going to recreate that in Portland? I don't get it. I don't get it. Yeah.
Change of subject then. Where do you stand on abortion?
So I'm pro-life, and I'm endorsed I'm endorsed by Oregon Right to Life. And this is a tough one, you know, in Oregon. If I'm Governor Kotek, and I have a miserable record to run on, what am I going to run on? Abortion and Trump. Abortion and Trump. Because she has nothing else to run on. So my guess is when I get past the primary, that's what's going to happen. So if I can, I want to elaborate a little bit on how I'm going to deal with this, because it's important in how you deal with this. First off, and I said this in the debate, the coin televised debate, so it's not like this is a secret. I am pro-life. And I also understand where most Oregonians are at with this. Most Oregonians, if you ask them, expect some access with reasonable limits. But Governor Kotek is extreme on this. She is not where most Oregonians are at. She celebrates abortion. She's promoted bills that allow abortion at any point in pregnancy for any reason. She's fought against bills like the Born Alive Act. She is extreme on this. As your governor, I won't be celebrating abortion. I'll be celebrating adoption and moms and dads and kids. And my hope is I can bring reasonable people together on both sides of this issue and come up with an Oregon solution that respects where most Oregonians are at. Yeah. But my challenge, and this is where I'm going to push back with Governor Kotek. She's going to bring this up as a wedge, to drive a wedge between me and her, and try to influence votes. But while she's driving a wedge, she's driving our economy into a ditch. A woman who can get an abortion within a couple days in Oregon can't find a primary care physician for months. Her daughter can't get a good education. She can't afford her utility bill. Those are the issues that we should be focused on as Oregonians, and I'm going to push back on her really hard. I'm not going to back off on my beliefs. I'm going to push back on her.
So I work for clients that are low income, and what I am finding is that I can't find housing for a person that's going to be homeless soon, because supposedly there's now no funds for that. And I want to know what you have to say about it and what you intend to do about it.
Well, I find that hard to believe that there's no money for it. We have spent a fortune on so-called affordable housing. But I think our governor's approach is the wrong approach. She wants heavily subsidized state-funded housing. I want housing that people can afford. Those are two different things. And I've traveled around the state, and I've looked at solutions that we can build affordable homes if you get government out of the way. I was talking to a developer this weekend, or contractor, and he says we can build houses a lot cheaper than we build them, but all the permitting and the regulations make it very difficult to do. I toured. I'll just give this as an example, and what I'm saying is we can have affordable homes for everybody. I went to this is a growing neighborhood. It's a tiny home neighborhood. It's clean, it's safe, it's gated, and it's for 55 and older. They pay $300 and some a month to $500 and some a month. and they have their own place. This place didn't take a dime of government money either. We can build this if we get a little creative and get government out of the way. We can have homes for people. Now, I'm not for housing first. I don't believe, you take somebody who's suffering from drug addiction and severe mental illness and you put them in a home. And I've talked to some people in Wallace Marine Park who've come out of Wallace Marine Park, the biggest homeless encampment, I think, in the state. And I was talking to a lady who was there in the camp. She'd been put into an apartment. She went stir crazy in there. They didn't teach her any life skills. They didn't help her with her addictions. She ended up right back in the camp. That was wasted money, wasted effort. So I'm not for the housing first, and I'm not for this harm reduction model, which is frankly killing people. So thank you. Thank you.
Hi, Ed. Thank you so much for
Yeah.
being here. I have a couple of things. I was at Winco last week, and I was in the self-check, and the clerk told me, she said, I've worked here 29 years. People just plow through their shopping cart full, and we can't stop them. She said, I've never seen it. It's never been this bad. The other thing I wanted to say is I have a grandson that goes to Reynolds High School. He's a senior. He was planning on going into the Navy. He's carrying an A in math. He went to take his ASVAB. He scored a 13. You have to be at least a 31, but he's scoring an A in math at Reynolds High School. It just doesn't add up. The other thing is, I've only lived in Oregon for about 30 years, but my husband and I are in that as soon as he retires, we're out of here. And I don't want to leave Oregon, but I can't. I live in Troutdale. Excuse me, Troutdale's not bad, but it's everything around me. Yeah. So anyway, thank you.
Well, I love your shirt, by the way. It says salty. You're listing a lot of reasons I'm running. The school situation, that hurts to hear. That kid is not being served right. And what are we doing? We're setting that. Is that your grandson? We're setting him up for failure. He's doing the work. He's getting an A, but it's inflated. It's awful. And what was the other thing you mentioned earlier? Oh, yeah. Yeah, you got me with your grandson, and we need to enforce the law. It gets more and more egregious. What did California do for a while, or San Francisco set a $1,000 limit for shoplifting, or 900 and something? That's ridiculous. Like I said, I know why it's a policy by the employer not to get you in harm's way, but we need to be cracking down on that, and law enforcement needs to be cracking down on that. And for me, if you have local law enforcement that's going to get state money, I'm going to tie that with specific outcomes. That stuff has to stop. And once you stop it, once you start cracking down on it, it will stop. And if you let it happen, it'll continue to happen and grow. And we're all paying for it. We're all paying for it. And stores will leave. We know it. Stores will leave. Then we got people like Mom Dami says, well, we'll just have the state own the stores. Good grief. Yeah.
Thanks for being here, Ed.
Yeah.
Hey, so I've been an independent voter for 50 years, and I just changed to red this
Yay.
3 months ago. And I voted
I think
for
he's in a video, right? You're in one of our videos talking about that.
Yeah. 40 years of blue rule and mismanagement here in the state of Oregon, and you want to come in and audit everything, that's going to take time, a lot of time, and then implement the strategies to get us out of this mess. Are you in this for more than one term?
Yes.
Excellent.
But I got to deliver results in the first term, or you're not going to bother re-electing me for a second. This is going to take a lot of work, and it took us a long time to get in this ditch. But I'm committed to digging us out of this ditch and bringing a great team in with me to do that. Yeah. And maybe we can take one more question, and then I'll close it out. Does that sound good? Okay.
First of all, thanks for coming all the way out here. I really appreciate it. So you mentioned talking to the Metro City Council. So I guess
the Metro Chamber of Commerce.
Metro Chamber of Commerce. Yeah. So the word metro is that's a dirty word in my book.
Frankly, I don't even know why we have metro.
How many metropolitan areas in this country have a regional government, and what is its what is its value versus what we pay in taxpayer dollars?
There's one. It's such a great idea. We're the only ones to do it. And is that right? There is no other metro?
No other.
Yeah. So, you know, I have not.
What's your power to do anything about that?
I think, you know, I would have the bully pulpit on that. I don't think the legislature would go along with us to abolish Metro. Maybe we bring it to the people and see what they say. Yeah. That's something I need to explore more with people and hear, you know, their take on it. But to me, it's an additional layer of bureaucracy that's costing us a ton of money. And I did speak to one Metro commissioner. Are they commissioners? Yeah, they're commissioners. And I was at an event with him in Portland, and I just thought, well, I'd ask him, do you feel you're making the best use of the homeless dollars that you're getting? And he thought about it briefly. He said, yes, we are. We're serving the homeless. I said, if that's your attitude, you're going to have a lot more homeless coming here. That can't be your attitude, but that's his attitude. And then he went on about how he wanted to introduce a new tax for parks. Everything. Are you not? Read the room. Even in Portland, people have had it with taxes. They're done paying taxes. Hence my new middle name, no tax. So I really question it. I've talked to some other folks that say we need to just get rid of it. But I need to explore what my role would that be on that. So I do want to close this up. You guys have been great. I really appreciate all the questions. I hope I hit on most of the issues that are important. I think we hit on the ones that usually come up. But I want to talk to you about how we're gonna win this thing. Because I would not be doing this. I'm not doing it for my health. I used to work out. I don't work out anymore. I'm doing this because I see a path to victory for us for the first time in 40 years, and I think I'm in a unique position to do that. First off, I don't know if you guys know this, but we have 120 or so thousand Republicans that don't vote in gubernatorial elections. Now, our primary turnout is going to be about 50%, maybe 60%. The turnout looks to be a little bit higher this time. I'd like to think that has something to do with the referendum and the work we all did. We'll see. But even in the general election, about 120,000 Republicans sit out. That is shameful. And about the same amount of conservative-minded, non-affiliated voters sit out. My commitment, when I get past the primary, is to work that and get those people to vote. Number one, I'm going to give them a reason to vote. Because I'm a fighter. I'm going to show them I'm a fighter. I'm a bit of a different candidate. And I'm going to go toe-to-toe with Kotek. And I've already shown we can beat her. We did with the referendum, and we're going to do it again. I'm going to give her a reason. I want to get that no tax Oregon, that volunteer base. We have some other plans too with some other folks to go in and do outreach to these folks who are not voting and get them to vote. We know who they are. We know where they live. We know how many dogs and cats they have. We are going to get them to vote. That's 200,000 votes right there. The other thing that I'm committed to do is I'm going to work Portland like no Republican candidate has worked Portland. I've shown you how I'm committed to this thing, and my wife too. And here's how I'm going to do it. I'm going to earn their trust. I think that's the number one thing you have to do if you're going to go in and have somebody change their vote for the first time in maybe their entire voting career is changed to a Republican. They have to trust me, and I'm going to earn their trust. I'm a straight shooter. I'm not telling a conservative group one thing and liberal media another thing. And you can go watch my interviews with Willamette Week, watch them with the Oregonian. I'm saying the same thing I do in other locations. In fact, when I talked to the Portland Metro Chamber, I made our team record that so you guys could see I'm not going in there and saying something different in private. I'm saying the same thing. So my goal with folks is they come out of this saying, you know, I don't agree with that guy and everything, but I agree with him on the things that are really issues for me and my family right now. And I trust him, and he'll give me a seat at the table, and I'm going to vote for him. That's what I want. And I'm hearing from people like that right now. I have Democrats writing me in. We'll see how many did that, but I'm hearing from several. I had a Democrat email me here just a few days ago and basically confirmed what I just said to you and what I've been saying this whole campaign. He says, I want one of your campaign signs. I want a yard sign. I live in Lake Oswego. I've been a Democrat my entire life. I've only voted. I haven't participated, but I can no longer support Governor Kotek and what she stands for. And while I don't agree with you on all your social issues, I agree with you on the issues that are making an impact, a negative impact on my life right now and the lives of my family. And I want that to change. And so I'm going to vote for you. That is how we're going to take back Oregon. That's it. And finally, I'm going to remind voters between now and Election Day what Governor Kotek did with that referendum, that transportation tax and fee bill, and how she rammed that down our throats. And she did. And she knew it, and she thought she could get away with it. In her callous view, as a career politician, she had done her job, which was to appease the special interest groups. So she appeased the SEIU because they wanted these taxes. She appeased them, and then any special interest that might have raised a fuss and might have funded a signature gathering effort, she got them to like a soft yes or soft no or a neutral. And in her callous view, it did not matter what the people thought. She didn't care because she'd done her job. And then she was guaranteed, this was the talk around the Capitol, she was guaranteed that if she delayed signing, it would be impossible for us to gather signatures with volunteers. And that just ticked me off. So she was guaranteed. And so you guys know there was 95% of the testimony was in opposition to this. She knew full well where the Oregon people were at. But we gathered 250,000 signatures. Republicans, Democrats, non-affiliated voters, Libertarians who are supporting me, by the way, Constitution Party voters who are supporting me, by the way. I'm forming a big coalition, guys. This hasn't been done before. All these guys came out and not only signed that thing, but helped us gather signatures. I'm going to remind voters every single day what she did. And she can argue and defend herself and why she went against the will of her own people. Good luck with that. That is my path. That is our path to victory in this thing. And I'm going to be a fighter. When I win, and it'll be an earthquake, because not just in Oregon, but across the country, because Oregon said after 40 years, hey, we're not happy with the direction. You know, all these cool sounding ideas that Governor Kotek talked about, they suck. They don't produce results. It's time for something different. So that alone will come with a mandate, even if it's by a small margin. I will bring my agenda, the people's agenda, to the legislature. Now, I'm expecting a little bit of resistance from the legislature. But I will work and find common ground like I have since I've been in the building and build coalitions and get that agenda done. If they are unwilling to do my agenda, which is your agenda, I don't have any problem being the first governor that co-petitions ballot measures and bypasses the legislature and brings it right to the people. I told the Oregonian that, and they were appalled. They were appalled by the idea. And Willamette Week called me. I said I led a rebellion with the transportation tax. Yeah. But I called the editorial. I actually have a good relationship with this lady, but I called her back and said, what was your problem with me saying that? She said, well, that's not a good way to run a legislature. I said, well, what's not a good way to run a legislature is passing bills that people don't like. Why don't you fix that? Then she said, well, you should elect different people. I said, it's gerrymandered. Look at Congress. 5 out of 6 people in our Congress are far, far extreme. That is not where Oregonians are at. Not even close. The legislature isn't that gerrymandered that much, but it's still gerrymandered. And you guys know it. They do not represent where the Oregon people are at. Who here thinks that foreign adversaries should own Oregon land? I haven't met a single person who thought that's a good idea. I brought 2 bills. I can't even get a hearing on those bills. Who here believes that boys should be able to compete in girls' sports? Even in Oregon, a bill to prohibit boys and girls' sports is popular. I know it. Even in Oregon. But we cannot get a hearing on that bill, much less a vote. That's what we're up against in the building. I'm going to represent you, not them, and not the special interests. And I'm going to do everything I can to get good bills through the legislature. If I got to bypass them, I'll bypass them. That's my commitment. Let's take back Oregon. Thank you. And thank you, Pastor Bob. Really appreciate it.
Come on, give him a big hand. All right, I'm a pastor and I'm going to pray. You all right?
Hey,
Father,
I wonder if we were going to get a prayer out of this.
Father, in the name of Jesus, we pray for Ed, pray for his wife, we pray for strength, pray for wisdom as he travels. Even though he's not working out, God, help him, God. But we just thank you, Lord, for a win tomorrow. We thank you, Lord, for motivating people to turn in their ballots by tomorrow. And we just thank you, Lord, for Ed being our new governor. We pray favor over his life and blessing of God in Jesus' name. Everybody said?
Amen. Amen.
Amen. And also, Ann Walker is running for state rep, District 49, right?
Yes.
49. Vote for her, okay? Anybody else running in here? All right. PCPs.
Yeah, all right.
Awesome. Thank you for serving. You guys are awesome. Thank you for coming tonight.
Thank you.
Have a great night.